Officially the first day of no more daylight savings time as we have fallen back 1 hour. I, for one, am always seasonally depressed, especially after the Red Sox win the World Series. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick Drago. Today on the show, we actually talk about soccer, and no, it's not the World Cup again, but MLS playoffs have started, and like 10% of Americans kind of care. We also discuss the Rockets' issues gaining ground in this young NBA season, and of course, honor the death of Willie McCovey. Saddle up, cowboys and girls, because sports starts now.
A long home run for Aaron Judge, and the Yankees are on the board.
Shoots and scores a rocket slapper.
Welcome to the Sports Podcast with me, your host, Nick Drago. For those that are new to the show, our goal is to provide you with all the sports news from the previous week while providing insight on the next week. If you like what you hear, go to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or SoundCloud, type in Sports with Nick Drago, and hit that subscribe button. It has been a fun weekend. We just got back from my sister's baby shower. It was a blast. I'm kind of recovering, and I apologize if I'm a little bit hoarse today. It's been a long day. And right now, just settling in. It's been a great day of football, and it's going to be a great day for reporting the sports. Let's start with some football, though, while we're mentioning it. 49ers, they got their second win of the season versus Oakland, 34-3. That was on Thursday. Nick Mullins is making a name for himself on primetime television. Lions, they lose yet again, this time to the Vikings, 24-9. Vikes with 10 sacks on the day. Steelers, they barely beat out the Ravens, 23-16 in a game they basically dominated. 3 touchdowns for Big Ben and James Conner. He had yet another great night, 107 yards. The Dolphins, they beat the Jets 13-6, fairly low-scoring game beyond a pick 6 by Jerome Baker in the fourth quarter. By the way, Darnold had 4 interceptions today. Chiefs, they come out on top over the Browns, 35-21. Yet another flawless day for Mahomes, 3 TDs, 375 yards. Bears, they earned their 5th win of the season over the Bills, 41-9. Nathan Peterman, he broke an NFL record for most interceptions thrown for a player with less than 100 passing attempts in his career. That number is 11 picks in this dude's career. And in case you wanted a comparison, Aaron Rodgers, he has had 11 picks in his last 993 attempts. Peterman, he also has just as many career touchdowns as he does pick 6. Why are the Bills starting this guy? All right, Panthers, they get a W over the Buccaneers, 2 TDs by Christian McCaffrey. That was a big decider. Falcons get a win over the Redskins. They now have an even record. Matt Ryan, 4 touchdowns, 350 yards. Julio Jones had his first touchdown of the season. Congrats to him. Texans, they hold off the Broncos to win 19-17. Chargers beat the Seahawks 25-17. Rams in a close battle for the second week in a row. They were tied with a little bit left in the game, about 9 minutes or so. Late rally by the Saints gave LA its first loss of 2018. Pats and Packers, that's the late one tonight. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers going toe-to-toe. You know, nothing you can't love about that. Cowboys and Titans, they play Monday. Looking at the standings right now, these are the teams that would make the playoffs if the season were to end today. You have in the NFC North, you got the Bears at 5-3. Saints dominate in the NFC South at 7-1. The Redskins, they're 5-3. They're on the NFC East, but they're only a game up over Philly, who could come back strong. We'll see. NFC West, you have the Rams, they're 8-1, and then the 2 wildcard teams would be the Panthers and the Vikings. In the AFC, Steelers lead the North 5-2. The South would be the Texans. They're at 7-3. The Patriots are 6-2 in the East. And in the West, it's the Chiefs at 8-1 with the Chargers at 6-2 and the Bengals at 5-3. Those are your 2 wild cards there. Some stories coming out of the league today include Big Ben wearing some new cleats for his game. Now, as a way to honor the victims of last week's tragic shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue, Roethlisberger replaced the gold diamond on the Steelers logo with the Star of David with a tag that states, "Stronger than hate." Lately, I've been bashing the Raiders on my show, and unfortunately, I have to continue this week. A recent story came out that Jamarcus Russell, former Raiders QB, who's widely regarded as the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Turns out the Raiders coaches were convinced he wasn't watching game film, and to test this theory, they would send him home with blank tapes. Maybe the guy just didn't have a DVD player. Eagles, they made a big trade this week, bringing in Golden Tate. Tate, as you know, he was a big name for the Seahawks during their back-to-back Super Bowl runs. Apparently, the Lions were trying to extend him, but it's tough to stick around on a terrible team. They end up with a third-round pick from Philly. This is a great move for the Eagles. They're desperate to get something going. Plus, Tate went from one bye week to the next, so he'll have fresh legs against the Cowboys next weekend. All right, time for one of those commercial breaky thingies. Now, don't worry. I will be back in a minute. I just need to gather myself before the next block. Then we'll talk about college football and why the Rockets are just so bad. Plus, we still have hockey talk, our athlete of the week, and MLS soccer. Stick with us, sports, sports, sports. We will be right back.
Crowd silent now, as opposed to when the Saints have the ball. Oh, look at this run. What a run. Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.
Fall's officially upon us, friends. I hope you have your North Faces and your PSLs ready, because you're going to need them. I have to say, both of those companies have really good branding. I mean, who doesn't want that for their own company? We here at Sports are looking for the same like-minded companies who want to grow their brands by advertising through us. Want to be involved? It's easy. Just email us at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. Right now we're offering free advertising on our show, so please shoot us a message and take advantage of this offer. Okay, that's all I have to say. Let's get back to the show.
Vikings at their own 39. It's third down. Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God. 30. No 10. Touchdown. Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis Miracle. Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis Miracle.
And we're back. Time to talk NCAA football. Not as many upsets or close ones as last week, but there were a couple. Texas A&M, they fell to Auburn 28-24 after letting up two fourth-quarter touchdowns. West Virginia and Texas, they had a good game as well. The Mountaineers winning the late TD. 16 seconds were left on the clock. Purdue, they pulled off a major win over Iowa, beating them 38-36. Even though Purdue is 5-4, they remain undefeated against ranked teams, beating BC and famously embarrassing, Ohio State a few weeks ago. Florida Gators, they take a loss to Missouri, 38-17. Arizona State also got an upset, beating out Utah. They had 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Alabama, of course, wins again. They managed to keep LSU scoreless. Number 9 team in the country couldn't get a single point over Alabama. Just shows what a different level these guys are playing on. Roll Tide. All right, looking at the top 10 rankings right now, Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, they're all undefeated. Michigan slid up to 4th. They're 8-1 after beating Penn State. Georgia, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Ohio State, they all sit at 5 and 8. Each one has one loss. LSU now, 2 losses, but they still sit at number 9. Washington State is number 10. UCF keeps their 21-game winning streak alive, beating out Temple, but they just could not crack the top 10. And it's basically because they play weaker teams more frequently. Moving on to basketball, 76ers, they look good against the Pistons Saturday. They had 29 points in the second quarter, but then only 16 in the third. Embiid, he actually had 39 points himself. Hornets totally embarrassed the Cavaliers, 126-94. Celtics fall to the Pacers, 102-101, thanks to a last-second three-pointer by Victor Oladipo. Since they acquired him, the Pacers, they're 13-2 in games decided by 3 points or less. Hawks beat the Heat, 123-118. Rockets finally looking to turn things around, beating the Bulls 96-88. Spurs looked a little sloppy, but overall they beat the Pelicans 109-95. DeRozan, Aldridge, they combined for 48 points. Not a bad-looking Spurs team right now. Nuggets, they destroy the Jazz in a 35-point fourth quarter where they held Utah to 15 points. Lakers, they get a win over the Trailblazers, their 4th of the season. Bucks destroy the Kings 144-109. Lakers and Nets, they had a late one. So did the Knicks and Wizards, the Magic, the Spurs, the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers, the Lakers, and the Raptors. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, be sure to catch that one. So a lot of late games there. So our standings aren't as up to date, but this is what they're looking like at this exact moment. In the East, the Bucks and the Raptors, they're both 8-1. They're your number 1 and number 2 teams. Pacers are 7-3. Celtics 6-3. 76ers, they've had a good week. They're 6-4. Hornets are 5-5. Pistons are 4-4, and the Heat are 3-5. So you have 2 even teams and a team that with a losing record currently, if the playoffs were to start right here, right now, currently in the East. On the bubble, the Knicks, the Nets, and the Hawks, all 3 of them are at 3-6. In the West, the Warriors, they're on top 9-1. Nuggets, they're 8-1. The Spurs are 6-2. Grizzlies 5-2. Kings at 6-4. Trailblazers, they're at number 6 with 6-3. Clippers 5-4, and the Thunder, they're even at 4-4. Bubble teams there include the Timberwolves, Jazz, Lakers, and Pelicans, all of them at 4-4. That's right. The Lakers are actually like right there. Like if they win a game, they could be in that playoff spot. Some top stories. Cavaliers, they fired head coach Tyronn Lue this week. No shocker the way this team started. Granted, we knew they weren't going to win without LeBron anyway, but it's really hard to coach a team that actually needs to be coached. The problem is you put Tyronn Lue on this squad that doesn't really need a coach. LeBron James is basically running everything from the floor. Now you don't have your superstar guys anymore. I mean, you still have Kevin Love, I guess. But some of these younger folks that are here, they need to be coached up a little bit. And J.R. Smith, I don't even know where to start with him. They announced Larry Drew as the next coach, only to find out that Larry Drew was not the next head coach. So, who knows what Cleveland's going to do? It's clear this team has no plan after firing Lue. They thought this guy was their coach. They announced him as the coach. Turns out they were incorrect. Jimmy Butler continues to sit out games. Doesn't really help his case if he really does want to be traded. Once again, Lamar Ball continues to badmouth the Lakers brass, saying the team should just fire Luke Walton and let him coach. Yeah, that's not going to happen. LeBron was quick to give Walton praise. Don't be surprised if these two end up butting heads a lot more over the next season or for however long Lonzo Ball remains with the team. When the Rockets went out and nabbed Carmelo Anthony, I said from the get-go, that team got worse, not better. Carmelo Anthony does not make your team better. I should know. I watched him play for the Knicks for how many years? One of our show's hockey expert, Brendan O'Keefe, he was on the show a few weeks ago. He told me that he likes to listen to old episodes of our program to see whether or not I was correct or incorrect about some of the things they say. Well, I'm right about this one, Brendan, so far. Look, the Rockets, they're 3-5. It's still early in the season, so you can't expect this to last. I mean, they did win their last, 2 games. In fact, a lot of star-studded teams, they've taken their sweet-ass time developing chemistry with each other. So far, they're undefeated in November, winning against the Nets and Bulls. The problem is that they beat the Nets and the Bulls. How will they fare when they actually play a contender? In fact, over the next 11 days, they play the Pacers twice, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, and the Warriors. I think after that, we'll get a decent idea of what this team will be like. So what caused the slow start? I mean, come on. Is that even a question? Yes, Chris Paul is suspended. Yes, James Harden wasn't fully healthy, but it's Carmelo Anthony holding this team back. We know he does not play defense, but his offense is sliding now too. His field goal percentage is 4th worst on the team. It's 45.3. Now that Harden and Paul, they're back on the court together, give the ball more to them. Take it away from Carmelo Anthony. Don't let that guy shoot. All right, believe it or not, I actually have some soccer stuff that I want to talk about, along with hockey. But you'll have to wait until after the break for that to happen. So sit back, get a beer, get a I don't know what you drink, whatever you like to drink, and get ready for more sports after this commercial.
Schultz working it back in deep. Fresh from the bench, it's Crosby. Crosby on Kunitz and shoots. Penguins win it, and they go to the final. Chris Kunitz with the second of the game. Fresh legs by Crosby, and a bunch of happy humans here in Pittsburgh.
Are your briefs too stretchy? Well, now they don't have to be with Stiff Pants. Now with only 45% chance of impotence. Okay, that's a pretty bad advertisement. You know what would work better here, though? Your own ad. Nick Drago here again, offering you a piece of the action right here, right now. Best part is, it could be anything you want it to be. No, wait, that's not the best part. How could I forget the best part? The best part is I'm offering free ad space. So, if you have a product you want me to endorse, please email us at sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. It won't cost you a dime, and I'll be waiting patiently at my computer.
Kevin Miller. Right back ahead, it's DeBrusque with a step. DeBrusque trying to get ready.
Watch Gardner. He pivots inside, gets himself out of position. DeBrusque is able to get it to the forehand, and that's a nasty goal.
Yes, my favorite sport, hockey. Let's talk about this weekend's game, shall we? The Sabres, they beat the Senators 9-2 Saturday. Islanders, they got their 5th straight win Saturday over the Devils, shutting them out at 3-0. Maple Leafs, they got revenge on the 5-0 shutout they suffered at the heads of Pittsburgh. They ended up beating the Penguins 5-0. Lightning beat the Canadiens 4-1. Oilers got a much-needed win over the Red Wings 4-3. Stars beat the Caps 4-3. Their hangover continues. Predators beat the Bruins 1-0. Wild beat the Blues 5-1. Flames, they get a win over Chicago 5-3. And the Golden Knights, they shut out the Hurricanes 3-0. That's Fleury's 50th career shutout. Carolina, they started the season 6-2. They just dropped their last 4 games. The Kings, they beat the Blue Jackets 4-1. Sharks get a win over Philly 4-3. And then some of the late games today included the Sabres and Rangers, Senators Lightning, and the Ducks and the Blue Jackets. If the season were to end today, you'd have the Lightning. They're on top in the Atlantic. Behind them is the Maple Leafs and the Bruins. Canadiens and Sabres are behind them in the Atlantic, so those would be the 2 wildcard teams. And then for the Metro, you'd have the Islanders at 17 points, the Penguins at 15, the Blue Jackets are at 14. In the West, Predators lead the Central. They lead the whole NHL. They have 22 points right now. You have the Wild and the Jets right behind them. The Avalanche also from the Central Division. And then from the Pacific, you're going to get the Flames at 19, the Canucks at 18, and the Oilers at 17. First off, those 3 teams, none of them were playoff teams last year. The Flames, the Canucks, and the Oilers. Oh, wait. Then they're all Canadian teams. You have 3 Canadian teams? This is crazy. Yes, hockey is Canada's sport. But notably, the last, couple of years or so, the Canadian teams don't seem to fare well. So good for you, Flames, Canucks, and Oilers. Oh, and then the Sharks, they're the wild card team for coming out of the Pacific. All right, I did promise I would talk about soccer on the show today. MLS playoffs, they started earlier this week. We have a full recap here. NYCFC, they started by beating Philly in their 2nd straight game. Timbers stopped FC Dallas, who usually doesn't play in the first round, so it was kind of new ground for that club. DC United, they put up a tough fight, but eventually lost to Columbus in a shootout. Real Salt Lake, they beat LAFC 3-2. Then the quarterfinals, that was today, or it started today. Columbus, they beat the Red Bulls in game 1 of their 2-game set, 1-0. Timbers beat the Sounders 2-1. NYCFC and Atlanta, they played the late one tonight, and same with Real Salt Lake and Sporting KC. So if you want to stay up till 1 in the morning, MLS soccer, it's on, and it's ready for you to watch it. Oh, poked my microphone here. All right, next batch of matches, that will begin on Thursday. Today, some supposed documents leaked to the public that discussed the possibility of some of Europe's top soccer teams breaking off and forming their own league separate to UEFA. Now, it's unknown how legitimate these claims are, but it could end up having far-reaching effects on European soccer. The teams in question are Man U, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Barcelona, Juventus, Bayern Munich, and Milan, aka most of the best teams in Europe. Manchester City, Chelsea, and Paris Saint-Germain are some of the notable exclusions. Keep your eyes peeled on this one, soccer fans, because if it's true, you can kiss Euro soccer as we all know it goodbye. In fact, the model will be very similar to the American model, which for years, European soccer would not even touch. So I'm very curious to see how this would work. It was announced on Halloween this week that MLB Hall of Famer Willie McCovey passed away. He had been hospitalized as a result of an infection. McCovey played his entire career in California, starting for the Giants 1959 until 1973, and again from 1977 to 1980. He also had brief stints with the Padres and Athletics. Over his 21-year career, he had 2,211 hits, 521 home runs, and a .270 career average. He was a 6-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, and the NL MVP in 1969. In honor of his service to the game, McCovey is this week's Athlete of the Week. We're going to wrap up the show now. I want to, of course, give special thanks to Nick Drago, the content editor and designer of our logo. Music for the show includes the theme song Golden Sunrise by Josh Woodward. A link to his website can be found in the show notes. Lois Butler, Mary Kay, Gary Albert, JR, and Joe Calabro, our usual social media warriors. Do you want to have your name read on the show? Dude, it's super easy. Just post a comment on our various social media sites or email me directly, sports3xpodcast@gmail.com. I will literally say whatever you want me to on the show. Remember, like, comment, share, email us, Twitter at us, and do all that crazy computer stuff. I'm pretty wiped out. It's late. I need to get my butt to bed. I apologize for the shortness of this week. We had a few internet issues this afternoon, so that kind of slowed me down. Plus, it's obvious that I can barely talk right now. So, thanks for sticking by and listening to not our best episode. And we had a few issues with the internet. It's all good now. All right, let's not to fret, friends. Though I'll be back with more rip roaring action next week. In the meantime, why don't I play you out with the soulful sounds of Josh Woodward? Good night.